We'll make the camera a little bit larger here, but I am maybe a little bit larger here. But I am back, and I'm not turning my lights on because they've been blinding me here all day. But I did run one little thing prior to this here. Let me see if I can pull it up 1 second. All right, here we go. So we got our music here, which is not bad. We'll go ahead into the new thing. That button clicks a little bit loud and a bit hard on the ears. And so now we have this next button. This animation here is not working really well. I'm kind of curious, like what other kind of, what do you call it, visual novel games I could look at and see what they do for this, but I'm not really sure in terms of how they do that. But you notice I go back here and it messes up. So I don't know why it cycles back to that after the end of that scene. We'll give it a nice another refresh here. Okay. And not sure what this is supposed to be. You wake up in your apartment in Japan, the morning, etc., etc. Okay, Alex says something, and then it's blank. So we'll go over to here, and I guess we can just describe as to what our issues are. There is, there we go. But at the same time, we could just read the code. So I'm going to go over to the game scene, which is the main scene for the game. I kind of want to refactor all those buttons. Maybe we could, I don't know, maybe we'll leave that alone for now. But here we can see we have a lot of the settings here in the front. And so I'm just going to go ahead and try to read through this and try to make sense of it. So here, initialize the scene with the data provided, right? So we have the scene ID. Is typing is false, dialogue complete. I don't know. I guess my question is like, do we need that typing animation? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch up a couple of visual novel games. I'm going to have to probably buy some on Steam. I'll be back here in just a moment. I'll tell you how it goes, okay? All right, so I took a look at a couple, and they actually all do print the stuff out. Now, the thing is, like, if you have internal dialogue, like you're the person that's talking, audio normally doesn't play, but there's no reason we can't set an audio voice, like to say, like, what is your own voice, and hear it out. I kind of prefer if the words would appear as they are said, which we can do if we get the audio transcription. So I don't know. I'm not sure if I particularly like the text going across like that. And obviously we're having some issues with the typing. Let's go take a look and see if we can kind of pin down where that typing code is. So I'm going to go here. We have the typing effect. So is still typing, completely, immediately finish the typing. Display dialog text with typing effect. Okay, so it is there. I don't know why the typing effect is aligned to the left, which is a little bit frustrating. But let's take a look here. I don't know. There's a lot of code going on in here. So there must be like a way that we can refactor out this code a bit. If we go over to here to our files here and we go to outline, it should show us the structure of the application. Wow, there's a lot going on here. So we'll drop down create. I'm not sure what's going on here. Why is there so much stuff? But we will collapse some of these functions here. And this will help us kind of navigate a little bit better about what's going on here. So obviously there's a lot going on, lots and lots of stuff here. I don't think that there should be this much in our game scene. So we have save game, load game. Is this stuff that should be here? Like where are these functions coming from? Save game. So I can see those, toggle auto mode, stuff like that. There's a lot of interface stuff. So I'm going to go over here and we'll say the game scene file is very large. Can we refactor out a lot of the UI interactions into their own files in a lib directory? Please make a plan of files to refactor. Okay, and I'm going to go switch to chat just so it doesn't go off the rails here and starts doing things that I don't want it to do. And this will help us a little bit here. So we're going to wait a moment and see what happens. All right, let's see what it has done here. So if we go back over here to the right-hand side, we got a lot of stuff here. Let's go up and see what it's suggesting. So no, this is what we have. We have the next button there. That's good. Create the directory structure as following. So we have UI, dialogue, character management, save, input, audio, utils. That's a lot of stuff. Here, main UI orchestrator class, dialogue, box rendering management, name box, component, button, choice system, notifications, dialogue manager, main dialogue handler, logic, text displays, language handler, I guess, character manager, save manager, input manager, input bindings, audio manager, audio assets, create base. I mean, if it works, you know what? Let's see here. I'm going to see if I have any code here. We'll just sync it. This I might regret, but I'm going to let it do it. Okay, great. Go do it. That just seems crazy, the amount of systems it wants to put in there. I mean, like, if they're small files, it's not a big deal. I can handle that, but to me, it seems like that's a lot. But I mean, I can't argue with any of those systems. They all kind of make sense to me. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to execute all those, but we will let it go through here. So we'll go ahead and it's going to go ahead and create a bunch of those directories. There's just a lot going on in that game file. And so I was thinking more like start with buttons and things like that, but that's fine. So now we have all these systems. I'm not sure why we need subfolders like this. Go over to here. UI, that makes sense, dialogue. No, I guess that makes sense. And yeah, now it's just going. So I'm gonna just keep driving it till it's done, okay? All right, so over here it says, I've updated the index.html to include all the new modules. Ooh, that'd be a lot of, no, maybe actually not that bad to be honest, but is that the full implementation? I don't think so. Let's go ahead and take a look here because it has to make a lot of files. So we have the audio manager, the character manager, dialogue, input, save, UI. This is not done. Okay, so I've updated, I've tested the modules individually. Now let's just keep going. Just keep going. Keep implementing the modules you said you need to finish. Okay. I don't want to test, I just want to go. Right? I'll clean it all up afterwards. Again, the worst approach ever, but I don't care. I just want to make all the code. I already approved it, and then we will. I'll step through the modules individually while we're running it, and it'll be less of an issue. So we're going to go ahead and let that continue on. Okay. As I'm waiting for this stuff to generate, I'm watching Kill la Kill. I've never actually seen this series, but if you didn't know, in the Gen AI Bootcamp, we're actually using this font up here. That's the Kill la Kill font. But, you know, for those who actually know the show, which I don't really know much about it, I got Crunchyroll here. Again, I don't really watch anime, so I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I figured I'd pick a little bit up and see if I can pick up any vocabulary with it, but I don't know. I might stop with it because anime is not exactly for me. But anyway, let's continue on here and take a look here and see what it has. So it really, really was going for a while. I literally was watching 14 minutes of a show, letting it go. This is what they call vibe coding, I guess. You just let it do whatever it wants. But let's go give it a refresh here and see what systems we have. We have, what do we got now? We have, let's see, we have all of our inputs. We have, oops. I got there's achievements in here. Probably don't need an achievement system, but that's fine. We have achievements manager. What is this? So this achievement master here, I don't know about that. It depends if like we make something that is, because like in visual novels, you don't have to have any checks, right? We don't have to have any knowledge checks. So that one might be kind of useless. We're going to your audio manager. Here it is setting up the background music, stuff like that. Background music, play sound effects, stop. So, you know, some of these abstractions don't really matter, but the thing is by having them through an audio manager, then we can centralize all the changes in one go. So that's not a bad idea. Character manager, not a bad idea. Width and height, I mean, they're always 100% for that, so it's fine. We have background data. Not sure why they decided to make it. I mean, like, yes, characters are linked to very specific backgrounds, but I'm not exactly sure as to why they did that. I like how that's expression neutral. Maybe in the future when I add more, that's actually not a bad idea. Here it creates the background, creates the character, puts the background here, character here. Position for character slightly centered, lower. It doesn't know that the dimensions makes it a perfect fit. So that's something we'll have to tell it about. Here we have update the background. So fade out the current background, update the character. So again, not 100% certain if that's what I want. We have the show the character, set character expression. Not a bad idea if we decide to add that. And we saw it earlier. I can do it. It just won't be very accurate. We have the dialogue manager. So here we can see the text speed, create the load scene, start the dialogue, display the dialogue. So now we can kind of go down there into that one. I'm not sure what the help system manager is supposed to do. Explains how the game works. Not a bad idea, but I'm not sure if I like that. We'll go over to the input manager. Set input handler. Yeah, not a bad idea. I'm surprised like how many hockeys it added in here. That's pretty impressive. We'll go over to our language manager. Dictionary of Japanese words with translations. I don't think the language manager makes any sense. Grammar points with explanations. I don't know why it keeps doing this. Right, so the language manager, it does not make sense. Unless you're like to click into words and try to understand them, then maybe, but that's too much. Progress tracker, learning levels. I don't know about that. I mean, like again, if this game like was a what do you call it, a daily sim, and every day you did the same thing, that'd be really smart. We'll go to our save manager. Okay, so our save manager, pretty straightforward. Our settings, again, pretty straightforward. Everything looks fine there. That's fine. We'll go to our story where there could be a lot of stuff going on here. And now we have our story manager, right? I don't think I like, well, these are chapters, right? Okay, so this is kind of managing. Now, we didn't really define the story structure, so that could be another file that we have here, but you can see that we have a series of scenes. It goes intro and it's going straight through those ones. But this is not exactly how it's supposed to work because what sends it to the next scene is the code there. So there might be some issues there with that. But yeah, we got a lot of code. We got our UI notification manager. Oh my goodness, we got a UI manager, asset loader, event bus. Wow, we have like a whole game here. Now, again, this might have been a terrible mistake because we don't know how all these systems work. But I'll go down below here. It says, now let's update the migration path to reflect our new modules. Over here, it describes everything that it has done, which is kind of like an additional doc. It's kind of like our tech spec now. But I want to go over to game.js. It's just really interesting to see that it could produce that much code. We'll go over to our main.js, and it's actually our game.js and our scenes that we want to go to. And so what I want to know is like, has this thing shrunk? Right? Because that was the whole reason I was behind this. Create character, create load. Okay, so here's my question. I don't think it uses any of that. Okay, so now that we have all these modules, update the scenes to actually use them. Because I don't think it did that. Make a plan. Because it's still using the old code, right? This is not because I just want to watch more Kill la Kill. So, first episode, never seen it. I understand some of the Japanese in it, so. Create a new character scene, refactored. I don't know why it wants to do that. I don't. Look, no, just implement in place. Don't worry about testing right now. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And I don't want it to make a new file. I don't want it to do that. Just fix the code. I didn't mean to swear, sorry. I usually don't swear too much, but it's been a long day. I apologize, folks. Let's look at the create method and see how it understands it works. So it's going to go off to the races here, and then I'll review it and see how it goes. All right, so I've been trying to let it run, and it's too hard for it. It's putting out a lot of junk code, and so I think it's really struggling with the amount of changes it has to make for this game state file. That's okay. Like I feel like I could probably figure it out. So it says initialize global event bus for communication between modules. I guess that is a design choice that's made here, which is a little bit insane, but we'll go down below and we'll take a look and see what the event bus is. So simple event bus for communication between different modules. And so here we have an on state, an off state, a mid state, and a remove all listeners. Actually, I like this because normally when I make a system, that's probably what I would do. I would have on, off, stuff like that. So I actually don't mind that. That seems totally fine. But we don't have much documentation on how we would use that. So, I mean, we could just tell it to produce it, obviously. So we have initialize the scene with the provided data. So here we have a scene ID that gets passed in through the game setting, which is going into game 001. We're loading our settings. We are initializing all managers, and then we're setting up the event listeners. Okay, so I mean, like these names are pretty self-explanatory, so I don't need that information to explain it. I can also see that this is setting the scene ID, so I don't need that either. I can see that that's setting up the event bus, so we don't need that documentation because it's self-explanatory, right? Up here we have our game settings that are set initially, so we have dual, 30, 05, 07, that's fine. Then we're loading our settings in. So here we have local storage.get Japanese with VN settings, visual novel settings, which is our first setting. So what is it doing? It is getting from local storage the visual novel settings. Now, this doesn't make sense because if we have settings, it should be managed by one of our managers, right? But I notice that's happening here. So maybe it doesn't do it at that point. So we have a settings manager here, right? But over here, you know, we have this happening here. So what I want to do is go look at our settings manager here, and we'll just collapse this so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just kind of like wondering, like, why is this happening here? Because if we go here, load settings, right? This seems like this does similar to the same thing. So here it says get item. Get item. But here we have the settings key, which is set up here as well. So I think that this function here is redundant, right? So this is redundant. We still need to make a load settings call from this manager. And so, you know, after all the settings are loaded, I'm not sure when we have to load that in, but we have this load settings, but this is actually in the game manager called, or settings manager, which is here. So we will go ahead. You can see I'm having no issues cutting through this code because I've worked in large code bases. So for me, it's just, this is not an issue. So do we have to have load settings here? Or can it occur after all the managers are loaded? Because that's something I don't know. The question is, like, when we have these managers and construct stuff, is it doing anything? Actually, load settings right here, so we don't even have to call this. Okay, as soon as this thing gets loaded, it's going to call it right there. So that is very clear. Now we're on to initialize managers. So first we have the UI manager. Let's go take a look and see what it's doing as it sets things up. And so we'll go over here into our UI manager, over to here. And so it sets the scene. We have the main window height matching exactly to the camera. Makes sense. Dialog box, name box, next button, controls, choice system. So I'm not sure about this because if you have UI, I feel like there's different UIs for different things. And so I don't know, like name box, next button, controls, choice systems. Like what about menus and stuff? But I guess those are on other screens, so maybe that's less of an issue, right? And this is really just focusing on the UI manager for this particular scene. But anyway, so we have dialog box, name box, next button, controls, choice system, and here it's creating them all. Now notice here that it doesn't create these at some steps, so we do have to create these at some point. And so I want to know, does it use the UI manager anywhere here, and does it call that step? So say UI manager, whoops, that's not what I want. UI manager, create. And so it is creating, it's creating UI elements. But where is the actual other one? So we'll go here. It's saying create UI elements, right? But here it's just called create. And I don't think there is a function called UI elements in here. So go create UI elements. There isn't. So I think what it really means to do here is to say create, right? Create the first UI elements. I mean, the description there was actually a little bit better, but here this is a little bit more clear. I mean, it's just simpler language, and I kind of prefer that. So this will create the first ones. I'm going to go put the comment on the end here, and that's good to know. we'll go back all the way to the top here. So we have UI Manager. This is going to create the dialog box, the create name box, the next button. You can see that we have some calls here. Still, the buttons aren't refactored, which is kind of annoying. We have our controls, our create control buttons, create controls, create control button. So these obviously have a lot of settings within them. So it's kind of managing a lot of stuff in here. This one could even be broken up a little bit more. Export for file and other uses. I don't know if we really need that, but that's totally fine. So that makes sense. So we have our dialog manager. So let's go take a look at that. So go over to our dialog manager, which is under what? Language probably. Nope. Dialog. Just one system under here is silly. I'd probably refactor this and put them all in the same level because we don't really need subfolders like that. That's a bit silly. Maybe for the UI we do. And so here we're setting the text speed, a bunch of other settings. We have a create, load the scene data. So load the current scene data from the cache. Now, should the dialog manager do that? That actually seems fine to me. And this is just called create. So I'm going to assume that that appears the same place as our dialog. We have this, but I don't see that here. So we have create characters. And we don't have, I don't know where this is. So let's say dialog manager, create. So notice we don't have anything for that. So we do have start the dialog flow at the start of the game. And I'm not sure if we even have that as a function in here. I didn't see it. Start dialog here. Yep, it is. But it doesn't create it anywhere. So that's missing. I'm going to place it in our initialize function. I'm not sure why it's not in our create function, but whatever. And so I'm going to go here, and since it's the next thing, we'll say UI or dialog manager create. So create the, what is it creating? Well, it's creating the, I mean, just loading data. We don't really need to create and then load data, but we'll just say like loads the initial data, the initial dialog, because that's really what it's doing here. Called after the UI is created. So after the UI is created, that is exactly what's happening here. So that is set up. Now we have create our background and scene elements. This, again, I don't like the fact that it is grouped together. I think that's a bit silly. It should be characters and backgrounds separate because they're separate entities, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. We're going to make our way over to our character manager. That is located under, I think, characters. All right, we go here, characters. And I'll go over to here into characters. We have our constructor function, right? Let's take a look at what we have. So we have scene, width, height, character background, our character data, our background data, create the background, create the character. Now here it says create character. Why wouldn't it be just create? And so I think that that's just a little bit of a mistake. So we'll go ahead and fix it by setting that, and that will fix our problem. Does it create in the correct order? It does, so that should make sure we don't have issues there. It doesn't understand the character stuff. The character stuff should be just 0, 0, but we'll have to double check that when we get into it. But right now, that's not set correctly. The background music, yep, that looks good to me. But we will need to go in here and take a look and just make sure it's not doing anything funny. So we'll go into audio here into our audio manager. And in here, we have create. So it says set up background music. So same thing. Well, it says set up background music. Do we set that anywhere? Right, so audio manager. The other interesting thing is like right now we're using this in this. Does it get called create when it initializes? No. But this might be an issue when we start looking at different scenes. This is play background music, which is correct. But then here's the setup background music. So here it would create it, so set it up, and then it plays it right away. So we don't even need this, but it is cool that they thought we could do that. So we'll go ahead and just say create. Play background music. This doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. If it's the audio manager, I think that should be kind of set up separately. So maybe we'll go back to this. I'm going to take this here and say this. I think I prefer that. Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll take that out. So we have setup, stop. This is more like setup and play. Setup, stop, resume. It's more like setup and play. Setup and play, background music. Maybe not the best code, but that's fine. So now we have that set up. Let's go into our next one. So after our character manager, we have our save manager. pretty straightforward. I'm not sure if there's any setup that has to be done for that, but let's take a look here. Our save manager has a create function, nothing in it. Perfect. We'll go to our input manager and we will take a look at that one. So we'll go up to here. We'll check our input manager. It does have set up input handlers. So we have point down on the scene. All dialog advancements is now handled by the next button. This handler remains only for other UI interactions. Not exactly sure what it's thinking it's doing here. No longer advances the dialog by clicking. Yeah, I don't want that. So we do have other things in here. So set up the point down. I guess if we wanted to override it, we could, but that doesn't make sense. But we do have some space and escape and some other keys set up here. We have set up input handlers. And then we have set up initial keyboard shortcuts. I'm not sure why they separate those out. We'll go take a look here and we'll just search. And so that's not being called at all. So I would think that we would do this. You know, really they shouldn't be separated out, but that's fine. This I think is useless. We probably want to get rid of that, but that's fine for now. We have our input. Let's go to our audio manager. I think we already checked our audio manager, so that's fine. This crate does need to get called. So we'll go down to here. And this is going to be create. So it really depends. Like, do we want to call this directly or just call create functions? I don't know. Here, the reason I did that was because the create doesn't do more than one action, and so I thought it was a bit unnecessary. Our help system manager, if needed, shows help for first-time players. I don't think it's that hard to play. So I'm going to take out the help system manager. I think the help system manager is useless. So I'm going to go ahead and rip that out. I'm going to go over to our help here. I'm going to delete this out. We don't need it. We don't need a help system manager. Maybe the game got more complicated, but right now I can't see it requiring that. We're going to take out this help button as well, which ends here. Yep. I just want to make sure we just rip it all out of here. Is there any more help stuff in here? I hope it's gone. I'll go to my index here. We're going to get rid of that help manager. We're going to have a problem if we don't take it out. If it's even included in here, help. Help. Here it is, help system. We just pulled that out. We'll go back over to our game scene here and just continue on down. So we did audio. We have settings manager. So settings manager we were already looking at initially. This is pretty straightforward. Create, apply, settings. So here we have the audio manager. It's setting the volume levels, things like that. That should occur probably before anything else. So I would bring this on up here and put this up here. That seems like it needs to be happening way, way earlier. I mean, that just initializes it, right? But the settings manager, if it gets created as a create call, it does. We need to make sure that happens way earlier. So let's go over to our settings manager, wherever that is. Settings manager here. Here it has load settings. Which doesn't make sense because it happens before the initialize managers. That can't make any sense. That can't happen. But if we go to our initialize, like how we have initialize and then create, I don't know what's like, why do we have, like it actually calls it right here. So why not just take these, right? Like this. And then boom, things make a little bit more sense, right? We don't even need this initialize function. This is kind of pointless. So now what we need is we need to say this settings manager load settings. Well, actually it's just going to be create, right? And this is going to apply settings initially, apply settings. It's not loading settings here. I think it loads settings when it creates it initially. Yeah, right here. So even before that, it already does it. Now we could take this and then move it into here, load and then apply settings initially. It just depends if any of those need it prior, but honestly, nothing's getting triggered until this point. So we could take this, just move this here. You know, again, the functions are self-explanatory, so we don't really need that there. Current settings. So I'm going to go ahead and do that instead, and I think that makes a lot more sense. Okay. Load save state. Now, that would be like the state manager, right? Or loading the game. So I'm not sure why. Load the state if available. Over here, right, we have the load save state. Like why do that here? Why do that here, right? Because if we have this and we are we have our state manager, or sorry, our save manager. Let's take a look at our save manager. Again, a lot of these we don't really need them. I mean, which one actually has multiple systems? No, I don't like this structure. This is kind of annoying. So, I mean, those are fine. The utils are fine. But I think what I might do here, just to make my code a little bit easier to navigate, I'm going to go to my folders, wherever that is. And we're going to do a nice quick fix on this. So I'm in the visual novel here. We're going to go into our lib directory. And we obviously have a bunch of these. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to drag this on up. I'm going to do that for each of these, right? And we are going to make this a lot more clear, right? Because I can't have any of this like this. This isn't going to help me, right? So I'm going to go here, drag this up, drag that up. We're going to keep going here. Save manager, we're going to keep going. Settings, we're going to keep going. We're going to go into our story. We're going to go here, bringing all those to a top level here. So, I mean, this is fine. I mean, technically, notification manager is UI, sure. So now, those are all top level. All these folders should be useless. So delete this one. There shouldn't be anything in that one. Delete that one. This is starting to look like a game structure for sure. Definitely a waterfall approach, but you can kind of see that I'm very comfortable doing that. Is it faster? I think it might be sometimes. We have an index.js in there. I'm not sure why we have that. I'm not sure what purpose that serves. I'm gonna give this a nice refresh so that is more condensed. Let's go into index.js. This is loading them. Do we even use this anywhere? Like we have this, which is fine, but if we go into our index.js, sorry, our where is it? Our index.html, it's not like it's loading it in here anywhere. So that's great and all, but I don't think this index.js does anything for us because we're not actually utilizing it. So I'm going to go delete this permanently. This is completely useless. It serves no purpose. And so we'll go back into our index.html. And so we have all this stuff, right? So I'll change this over, this, save manager. These are all managers. Should have made a folder called manager. We have progress tracker. I mean, it's kind of a progress manager. These utils we'll leave alone. That's fine. And so this is really, these are really the managers, right? Managers. Okay, so now we have all those there. Some of our modules. Call them all we call them all managers if we really want to. And so now that's a little bit more streamlined, right? So that's interesting. We have initialized managers. That's what we're doing here. That's fine. Do we even need to refactor on the function? I guess it's fine. We have set up event listeners. We'll go down below here. And so this is where it starts to use the event bus, which is kind of cool. So we go here, and what does it do? Notification show, transition, scene. I like this. I don't think we need to even describe what these are. They're very straightforward what they are. Right? So we'll do that. Again, just trying to make the code more manageable. You know, we could even do this. Again, if the code is simple, why not make it easy to read, right? We'll go here. You know. There we go. It's up to you, but like you can see that there's not much happening here, so there's no reason we can't just do that. I might end up changing it back to the other format later, as that is a bad habit of mine. We still have a bunch of junk in here that we probably don't want. So we're just continually just kind of massaging this to get it here. So we have initialized managers, which again, that's fine. We don't need to really divide these here. It doesn't really matter. We'll just go ahead and do this. It's interesting because like these says initialized managers, and the ones that are utils, they're calling them managers as well. Yeah, that's fine. We'll leave that there. So we initialize our managers, and then we're setting up our event listeners, which is fine. I guess the question is like, should these be set up? I guess it doesn't matter because these only get triggered if these events happen, which aren't happening as of yet, right? So I guess we're not really worried about that. Then down in the create, we are creating all of our stuff. Did we actually cover everything we had to create? I think we did, but just in case we didn't, I just want to double, triple check this. Okay, so we'll go here. Just ignore that. Or as I put those comments is like we can't really tell what's going on in those create functions. And maybe again, we shouldn't call them create. We should actually name them exactly what they are. We have a settings manager here, a UI manager there, dialogue, character. We have the save manager, which I don't think has a create. We have the input manager, which shows up at the end. We have our audio manager here, which happens there. Notification manager, we haven't done anything with yet. I don't know what that does. Let's go take a look and see what it actually does. So if we go over to our notification manager, handles in-game notifications and messages. For what? Show a notification message. I don't know. I guess like in games you have like achievements and things like that. So that's kind of what it might be talking about. We don't really need that. So I'm going to leave it alone, but we're not doing anything with it. Then we have our language manager. So we'll go back up to our game code here, wherever that is here. And in here, we're not creating our language manager. Let's go take a look at our language manager. Our language manager should be here. There we go. And I mean, it has its own create. Load dictionary data. So here, konnichiwa, sensei, grammar points, make text interactive. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Where like you click on the words, but I don't want that, right? I think that pronunciation words, plain pronunciation sound, it's really interesting. Like, but I think that that's so complex that I can't expect that to actually work right now. The other challenge is like, how is this even integrated with the other stuff? Because that seems really complicated, right? The language manager here. So I don't know about that. And also like the dictionary is too small. That makes no sense. So I would say that the language manager can go because it's not really doing what I want it to do, right? And maybe it's trying to pick up something from one of our other code bases. I'm not sure, but we'll get rid of the language manager because that thing is not going to help us whatsoever. So we need to make sure we go back to our index and make sure we get rid of the language manager. So that one's going to go. I'm leaving the notifications around, but then we have achievements. What's the difference between notifications and achievements? I don't know. Because to me, I mean, like maybe it manages what achievements you have. So chapter 1 complete, chapter 2 complete, words, all choices, speed reader, stats. I don't need this right now. I don't need this. I mean, it's interesting, like you can unlock achievements, stuff like that. But since it wrote the code so easily, I'm very happy to get rid of it for now. So we'll go get rid of our achievements managers for now. I don't need that. So we'll go ahead and get rid of that out of there. We'll go into our game scene and we'll get rid of the achievements managers and we'll get rid of that. Then we have progress tracker. That sounds kind of like the same thing. What progress are we tracking? Because we have learning levels. Again, this would make sense if we did multiple iterations. I like, again, that the event bus, we have these study options here, but there's no way to really track these kind of things. So I'm going to delete this for now. This is a very complex system. That's not something I'm going to leave to this to try to write. I'm going to step through it step by step to help it figure it out. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get rid of the progress tracker and the language tracker. Those both have to go, right? And let's make sure we get rid of the progress tracker in here. Love its enthusiasm, but there's no way it's going to complete it to the end. Story manager sounds like something we definitely do need. Let's go back over to our game scene here, and we'll take a look at our story manager. So our story manager's there, and it sets the current scene at the start of the game, which is fine. That's fine. Asset loader, I'm not sure why that's so far down. Let's go take a look at the story manager. If we have not already. So here, it's storing the structure. That's actually fine. This is kind of loading a very specific one, but later on we'll have to fix it. Subscribe to events. Dialogue complete, choice made. So, sure. I mean, we're setting up event handlers, but why not set the event handlers all in one place? Why do we have them here? Because if we can do this, why wouldn't we do that everywhere, right? Like, why don't we just have the event handlers all in one place? So this is something that I'm kind of wondering that maybe we should change here. This is, yeah, so I'm gonna just take this out of here. Okay. And we will put all of our events in one place because then we can see what's going on, right? Cancel, save that. And so here, this is not going to make sense unless this is the, what do you call it? The story manager. Okay. And so now what I'll do is I'll go back to our story manager here. Okay. And so we don't even need this function here. It just doesn't do anything. We don't need to do create. We don't need to subscribe to events. That's complete waste. I mean, maybe we want to initialize the default state. Why that isn't set in here, I don't know. But we did see it somewhere else, but we might go and fix that as we work through it, because I think it was on another step here. We'll go back to our game.scene here, over here. Okay, so this is starting to look a little bit nicer. It's saying this dot whatever, but I'm guessing it needs to bind on the actual story manager. I'm not exactly sure. The other ones aren't binding on the second one here. On event bus. It's interesting because these ones are calling literal functions, right? Like this happens, call these little functions. But I don't know, maybe I made a mistake here, but I think that, you know, if I'm gonna have this stuff, I want it all in one place. I really like this event bus because this is how I actually build my apps in our Dilithium thing. I find it a much easier way to manage applications. So we have that, the asset loader. Let's go take a look at the asset loader. Wherever that is here, asset loader, where are you? Do we even have one? We don't even have that. That does not exist. Is it over here? Oh, it's over here, okay. Preload images. So this is something that belongs in, not in this area. It doesn't even belong in the game scene. So the asset loader really should go into the, maybe the boot screen. Yeah, I'm not sure about this. Because we also have the preload scene, right? Let's take a look at our asset loader here. Go back over to this asset loader. Where is our asset loader? It's over here. So what is it doing? It is preloading images, preloading audio, preloading sprites, preloading data, preloading the loading bar. So what about fonts and stuff? So that doesn't look like this is completely implemented. I might ask it just to focus on those two, but let's keep paring down the game file as, again, it doesn't seem like it should be as complicated as it is. But the asset loader is not supposed to be in here. Definitely not supposed to be in here. So we'll go ahead and do this, asset loader. And it's not used anywhere else, that's good. We have scene transition. I don't know if we really need that as a separate thing. Where is this? It's probably under util, scene transition. And so this again, I'm not sure if it should be in here, as this is something that, I mean, it's really just wrapping existing scenes, but this should be more of like a global thing here. So I'm not sure about that, but I'll say to do, maybe this is moved globally. Okay, because I don't think that's where it's supposed to go. Then we have our create, and then we have our load save state, and then start the game. So in load save state here, load any save state via the save manager. Notify the modules that we're loading. Okay. If this is a game, initialize the progress tracking, we're not going to do that, so we'll just take that out. That doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if really this should be here, to be honest, but it's fine, I guess. I say that because, you know, if we want to just load the state, I guess it's fine. Because we could also put it in the start game function too, right? So here we have set the current scene. Then we're loading the data over here. So story manager load data. Is this where we should load it? And then we have this, dialog manager, start dialog, all of our update functions, create the background. So we definitely don't need create background anymore. This is gone, right? So this has been refactored out. Create the character has been refactored out. Create the UIs, all have been refactored out. So the UI was working fine where it was. Create the UI controls, this is out of here, right? We got a lot of stuff going here. Load scene data. This doesn't need to be here either. Update the background, update the character. Start the dialogue, we don't need that. Get speaker name, I don't think we need that. That's junk too. Display the dialogue. So these are all the old functions. Type effect, I don't even like the type effect, to be honest. On typing complete. On typing complete. Is this still being used? No, it is not. Show choices, is this being used? It is. I don't feel like show choices should be managed this way, but because if this is our dialogue manager, start dialogue and dialogue typing effect, on typing complete, advanced dialogue, handle choice. Yeah, so we have handle choice in here. We got get speaker name. Not sure about this. So I'm going to go over to here and I'm going to just delete it out. Again, I'm very confident that if we need the code again, we can regenerate it. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to take out this, handle choices, clear choices, show choices, clear choices, set up input handlers. This again has been refactored out, so we don't need this. Yeah, this is all not even in here anymore. I can't believe how much code it made and it was actually working. We don't do this here anymore. So, game save. Yeah, so it is notifications. Load the game. Show notification. Toggle auto mode. Actually, a lot of games have auto mode, so that kind of makes sense. Toggle language. Open settings. So now, this thing is really, really thin. Okay? I'm not saying it works. I'm just saying like we have refactored it out here. I'm, again, not a big fan of what's going on in our create function here, but starting to get some managers going here. So that is good, right? So now, I guess my question is, we have all these things here. I'm trying to think, right? I'm trying to think about what it is that I want to do next. So probably what I want to do is solve the preloader. Well, first I'll commit my code, right? So I'll go here and we'll just have major refactor. Major, and we'll call it a major blind refactor. If you worked at a real startup, they would never let you do this. You know what I mean? Because there'd be so much change. You'd have to do incremental changes. But when you're a team of one, you can do whatever you want. So now that that has been changed, I want to see if we can get the preloader back and working. And there's a little bit going on with the preloader, so I'm going to ask it to try to help out here. So, I've refactored the code further. What I want you to do is focus on the boot scene and the preload scene because it's not using the asset loader in the utils. It's called asset loader folder. Can we get that to use it and refactor out existing code? So we'll go ahead and let that do that there. So it's going to go ahead and do that. All right, so apparently we have a successful refactor here. So it says, I've successfully refactored the boot scene, the preload scene, the asset loader class manager for loading assets. Added an instance of asset loader class in the preload. Replace the phaser loading calls with phaser load. Organize boot asset in the array of cleaner code management. Specifically, reduce the refactor to the scene to use asset loader. Replace the custom loading bar implementation with the asset create loading sync. Created a new load all assets. Restructured all assets loading methods to use the asset loader utility. Okay, hopefully didn't mess up any of my structures here. This still looks fine. Benefits of this: centralized asset management, cleaner code, improved error handling, better scalability. Maybe. It sounds like it's trying to oversell me on it, but it would reduce the code there and just be able to just throw files in and load them in, assuming the implementation is correct. But we'll go up to here. We'll take a look. The boot is the first thing that loads. And so it has UI loading background, loading bar, which we, again, still don't have this here. So I'm not sure why. Oh, it passes it into this here. Why does it do that? Again, if you want to do that, I suppose so. I guess if you wanted to change out the preloaded images, it's only loading these two here. I don't know why they just don't do that. It's fine, I guess, if you wanted to check the code. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do this as a little refactor. It was probably fine before. Load minimal assets for the loading screen. Create the loading bar placeholder if they don't exist. Do we still need that? That still kind of looks hard coded. Is that something we still need? Okay, because my thought was like, if you have here the preload screen, not here, preload utils here, like the asset loader, preload audio, preload sprites, preload data, create loading bar. So like we have that here, then why do we need this one? Huh. Maybe because it doesn't have them? And I mean, to be fair, it doesn't actually have them, so I kind of understand that, but I'd probably rather put the other ones in. Create simple loading bar if it doesn't exist. Check and create the directory. In the browser, we can't directly create directories. This would be implemented in Node.js. Okay, then why do we have to create a directory then? Create a directory. Check and create a directory? Because then we would never use that, right? Like if you want to check it, that's fine. Check and create directory. No, you're never going to do that. So we'll go ahead and take this out. Right? Initialize game settings. Is this something that we'd actually do here? Because if any games are setting available, then do this here. And I mean, it's not a bad idea to set our initialized settings here, but this again is going to be set by our other manager here. So here, to do, should use config manager. Does this happen here? And settings manager, yeah, settings manager. And then we have the preload. So transition to the first one. So the only thing in here is this because I don't have graphics, right? And I can make graphics. I'm a little bit lazy, but if we create them, then I can get rid of this entire function here. Let's go over to our preload scene and let's see if it actually utilizes this stuff correctly. So now we're over to here. We're getting almost at the hour, so I'm probably going to stop here and go to sleep and continue on this in the morning. But here we have load UI assets, all this stuff. This looks like, okay, so it's using the preload. All right, so it's just feeding into here and then loading it that way. We can do it that way. Just a little bit of a preference of mine. So we're not going to pass them any other way. So I'm just going to go here and do this. Might as well just try to reduce our footprint of code a little bit. There we go. Look at that. Then we don't even need that constant. Create UI, create placeholder UI elements. Yeah. There's animations to create. I didn't realize that. Go down here. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we really need to create animations. There are no animations. So we'll just take that out since that's not doing anything. And then we had like fonts. Okay, so that is also useless. So take that out. I don't know how we create a loading bar here and then the other scene that we have it again. Like we have 2 loading bars. I guess it just creates the assets and then we're used later on. Create loading bar, asset loader. Okay, so then why do we even need this one? Texture-based loading BG. Oh, then it loads them into here. Okay, I see. So that makes sense. And then it has the asset loader over here. We also have the asset loader over here. How does that work? Because then we load it into one. So, you know, I noticed we initialize the asset loader in the boot scene and the preload scene. How will the preload scene have the preloaded assets if they are in separate, if they are initialized, if it's initialized twice? Like maybe it still works. I don't know. Is there something I don't understand? Maybe this is a non-problem. Because in this one, the preload, it's just loading some things initially. Don't cause any issues because the asset loader class doesn't actually store loads. It's just utility wrapper. Okay, so it's saying that that's a non-issue. Okay, that's fine. Preload the scene. This is fine. We'll go back to our boot here. So here it's just loading the different kinds of assets. Load character assets. The order here doesn't really matter. Load audio assets, which we don't have much of. Load story data. I don't know. Do we have to load story data? I guess probably. I mean, obviously that's what it would do. When everything's loaded. Yeah, because this will automatically get called after the preload. So we have this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here. That's fine. And then we have our big old placeholder here for buttons. So let's go ahead. I mean, the thing that might give us trouble is the games. I mean, we've changed so much. We should get lots of problems, to be honest. But we'll go over to here, and I'll go over to this. We'll take a look and give this a nice hard refresh. It still loads. How does it load? It must be cached. There's no way that's loading. I cannot believe that. We'll give this a hard refresh. No, it's loading. Wow. Really? Really? With all those changes? Impressive. Now, obviously, when we click here, that doesn't work. Notice that the music doesn't play on this scene either because it hasn't been loaded until the one after that. But we have cannot read properties of bind, so it's already having problems where? On something here. On one of our... Which one? Here. Okay, so cannot read undefined bind for toggle auto mode. .bind. Okay. Fair enough, but the point is that we were able to do a massive refactor, and that actually is working. This is the language reactor. It's a plugin I use to for language learning. But the point is that I can't stop the music there. But the point is that that was very interesting. That we got to that point. So let's go over to the binds, and then we'll just kind of stop here and continue on. But the next thing we'll actually be getting the game working. But I think actually this approach worked out pretty fine. So far, I don't feel intimidated by all this code here. I agree with all of it, and it looks fine to me. So let's go down to our event listeners. And so here's having an issue with the bind. I don't see a bind here. It must have been on the interior of something. Let's give this an inspect here. Again, I'll click in. This problem is within the UI manager. Okay, so and just click off there. So if we go back to our UI manager here, inside of this we have obviously events being called. Here it's having an issue with this. Scene auto toggle bind. Interesting. So I think this bind thing is coming, I think it's coming from somewhere, but I think it's a built-in thing with Phaser. So here, you know, we'll go ahead and copy this. We'll just ask a question about it. We'll put this in chat. See what it says, right? Now, bind is not something that I'm not unfamiliar with, but sometimes it's coded into systems, and so we have to see if it actually is here. There is about the UI manager, specifically at the lines where this is. Let me take a look at the UI manager file and see. Happens when you're trying to call bind on something that is undefined. Oh, so maybe it's just that it's undefined at this stage of time? So here is calling this.scene toggle auto mode. How does it even know what those things are? I guess that's at the scene level here. Oh, you know what? I deleted those out, right? Hold on. I don't even need to read that. I know that, you know, those are not there anymore. So if we go here, toggle auto mode, which is here, this scene bind toggle auto mode, this has been refactored out probably somewhere. Toggle auto mode. Is it in here? Toggle auto mode. Toggle skip mode. This might be in our dialog manager. Auto mode. Toggle, no. Where is it getting all these settings? I remember we was having it before, but I'm trying to find it. Like obviously they're in our game, and I deleted them because I saw them as useless. I'm not seeing any toggle auto mode around here. So we'll go back to our UI manager here, and so we have auto button, skip button, save button. These, we'll close this window out here. Save game, load game. All these functions don't exist because we deleted them. Open settings, toggle language, setting scenes. I'm wondering if like those even should be set there like that. I'm not necessarily sure if I agree with this implementation because this is its callback, right? Like what should happen when you click that button? But we have an event bus, so why don't we just use the event bus to kind of define what kind of events we want to trigger? So this is where I'm not sure. So it does create a control button, which is great. But I'm just thinking about this. So this is the callback of what we want to happen, right? Save game, load game. Like save game, load game, that's obviously in that manager, the save manager. But it seems like this should actually be calling the event bus. should be triggering event bus actions, right? So if we go back over to our event bus actions over here into our game settings, where this is game scene, right? Like save game, load game, right? So like it really should be emitting these. So let's go over to our event bus. And in here we have emit, right? So instead of doing these, it should be emitting these events. That's what it should be doing, right? Yep. That's what it should be doing. So let's see if we can fix that quickly with the code here. So I'm going to go here and we'll go into here and just say, these are calling functions that don't exist. What we should do is use the event bus to emit events and then watch the events on the game scene with all the other events. For now, we can leave the on events triggered functions as a console log for testing. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that. We'll see if it can just fix that for us. This conversation is getting kind of long. I'm not sure if I should restart it or if that becomes an issue at any given point in time. But that's something that I would do to fix that issue there. And then just decide where we want to bring in those elements, right? It's very simple. It's on, emit, right? It's not complicated. We'll give it a moment here. All right, so it looks like it supposedly updated our code here. We're going to go over to our game.scene and wherever it is here, game.scene here. And so now, did it actually implement? Oh, it can't actually do it because I'd actually have to give it write access, right? So here we will go and apply this one. Okay. So I don't like the fact that it did that, but that's fine. So now it's emitting those buses, right, in the UI manager. That's half the story. And then we need to apply this one next. So now it will bring in, I'm not sure why it does it like that, but that's fine, I guess. Oh, because right now it's just doing console log, but I don't know why it just didn't do it all in place. But anyway, there's all the other ones. I kind of like when it's more condensed like this, but whatever. And so now, you know, we're getting a little bit farther along. That might get us around some of our, at least our existing issues. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop this and restart it. I'm going to go back over to our actual application here, and we'll bring this on down here. I'm not expecting it again to work, but just maybe proceed past that step. We have a nice click here. We'll go over to this. Let's take a look and see what the problem is. Oh, this is still showing the old error. Setup and play background is not a function. It's not. I thought it was. I mean, I did rename it manually, so maybe we'll just call it create. We'll play background. Yeah, we'll put that back in there. Set up and play background music. I'm going to copy that, and we're going to go. It's playing it already, so I'm not sure. Not sure what else we're expecting here. But maybe somewhere else it actually plays the audio music because it's clearly already playing. Set up and play. So we'll go ahead, stop this. We'll go back over to here. And I'm going to go back over to this. We'll give this a nice refresh for fun. And we will click into this. Again, the music's playing, so clearly it's not a function. What are you talking about? It clearly is a function. We're clicking it. You're playing the music. It's working as expected. I'm going to go back over to here. It is a function. It's a function. I can see right here. It's a function. I'm not crazy. We'll go back over to the game scene here. stop it, start. Maybe like there's something else that's going on that's a problem. Maybe inside of it, it's calling another function. I don't know. Let's another try here. Clearly playing the music. We'll clear this out. Clear console. And I'm going to hit new game. It's really loud now. We have a different error, so that's good, right? So now we're just kind of stepping through. I'll close that out. But now we're just kind of stepping through the code, and we are getting somewhere. So I'm pretty confident that we can get this working. There is a lot of work ahead. It might take another hour to get everything into shape. But if all that stuff is in place, then we're back to where I was just a moment ago, but with all the code more manageable and refactored. And then I can think about expanding that story. I really do like the idea of a daily sim, because imagine if you're playing a game every day you wake up and you can kind of add a little bit of complexity and variation on those daily routines. You could even play this game every single day as your daily routine to see where that variation is. It could test you at the end of it, and that would be a real big deal for folks. But anyway, I'm gonna let folks go here, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, ciao.